AI. It's powerful stuff, no doubt.
Yeah,
But sometimes it feels kind of like a magic trick. You see the result.
we
But
don't know how it got there.
exactly.
Mhm.
Wouldn't it be cool if we could understand AI's reasoning?
Well, that's the whole idea behind explainable AI, XAI.
XCI. Okay.
Mhm.
So instead of AI just giving us answers, XAI helps us see why those answers came about.
Right. It's about making those decisions transparent so we're not just trusting blindly.
So like imagine applying for a loan. The AI says nope, but with XAI, you wouldn't just get rejected.
You'd get the reasons why. Maybe your credit score needed a boost or your work history wasn't long enough.
Uh-huh. So it's almost like those what if scenarios,
Mm.
showing what could have changed the outcome.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is XAI isn't just theoretical. It's being used right now to find potential problems in AI systems that are already out there.
Like a safety check, making sure AI is playing fair. So let's break down the main parts of XAI. Our sources talk about transparency, explainability, and the ethical side of things as the key elements.
Right. Let's start with transparency. It's about understanding exactly how the AI works, from the data it learns from to the code that makes it run.
So, open source code, clear data practices, no more black boxes.
Exactly. And then there's explainability. This is where those counterfactual explanations come in, providing understandable reasons for the AI's decisions, not just a simple yes or no.
Okay, I'm following you. But where does the ethical part fit into all of this?
Well, think about it. AI systems are built by people, and we all have our own biases, right?
Right.
XAI can help us identify and address those biases that creep into AI, making sure they're used fairly and responsibly, like the EU's AI Act, for example.
So what?
The AI Act, it classifies AI systems by how risky they are. So systems that could have a big impact on our lives, they're going to face tougher rules.
Like a driver's license for AI.
Kind of,
Yeah.
but putting XAI into practice, well, I imagine that can't be a walk in the park. There are going to be some bumps in the road.
For sure. What are some of those challenges?
Well, for one, there's the balance between transparency and how complex some models are. Some AI models are so intricate that even with XAI, explaining them fully can be incredibly tough.
I can see that.
And then there's the whole issue of protecting a company's secrets, their intellectual property.
Right, companies might not want to reveal everything about their AI.
Exactly. It's a tricky balance to strike.
So big potential benefits with XAI, but also some pretty complex challenges.
Absolutely. But even with those challenges, imagine a world where we actually trust AI's decisions because we understand how it got there.
That's a powerful idea. Building a relationship with AI based on understanding, not just blind faith, especially as AI is becoming more and more a part of our everyday lives.
No question. Think about the implications for healthcare, finances, the justice system, even self-driving cars. These are areas where AI decisions can have huge consequences.
No kidding.
And XAI gives us a way to ensure those decisions are being made fairly, accountably.
So it sounds like XAI is more than just making AI understandable, it's about ensuring it's used ethically. But can you give us some real-world examples of where XAI is already uncovering problems, like specific cases?
Oh, absolutely. Let's take criminal risk assessment, for instance. There was this study that showed a widely used algorithm was unfairly flagging certain defendants as high risk.
Seriously.
Yeah. And that bias, which could have meant harsher sentences for those individuals, it only came to light thanks to XAI.
That's a scary thought. It really highlights how important XAI is for protecting against those unintended consequences. Any other examples of XAI in action?
Well, there's a case of facial recognition technology. Studies have shown some systems are much more likely to misidentify people than others. And XAI helps us understand why those discrepancies exist and what we can do to fix them.
So it's like a magnifying glass, letting us zoom in on AI systems to find those hidden biases that could lead to unfairness.
Exactly. And XAI has revealed potential bias in areas you might not expect too, like online job ads. There was this case where an automated system was showing higher paying jobs to certain demographics more often than to others.
So even something as seemingly harmless as job ads can be affected.
Unfortunately, yeah. And without XAI, those issues might go unnoticed, perpetuating inequalities.
It's like XAI is shining a spotlight on these problems, forcing us to actually confront them head on.
You got it. And it's not just limited to those areas. We've seen similar issues in property valuations, where XAI tools analyzed housing price data and found that algorithms were being influenced by factors that could actually make inequalities in the housing market even worse.
It's incredible how XAI can reveal these hidden biases, really emphasizes the need for it in all sorts of applications.
Couldn't agree more. From criminal justice to healthcare to housing, XAI is essential for making sure AI systems are fair, transparent, and accountable. It's about building trust in AI, ensuring that it's actually benefiting everyone.
Well said. So it's not just about making AI more understandable, it's about using it ethically responsibly.
You got it.
But implementing XAI you mentioned earlier, it's not all smooth sailing,
Well,
though.
absolutely. Making these complex AI systems explainable, that's a big hurdle. One of the main challenges is balancing transparency with how complex these models can get. Some AI models are incredibly intricate, so even with XAI techniques, it's really tough to fully explain how they reach their decisions.
I can imagine. It's like trying to understand a giant machine with millions of moving parts.
Exactly. And finding ways to simplify those explanations without sacrificing accuracy, that's a major challenge for XAI.
So it's about giving enough detail for people to understand, but not overwhelming them with jargon and complexity.
Precisely. And then there's the whole issue of intellectual property protection. Companies invest tons of money in developing sophisticated AI. They might be hesitant to reveal too much, worried about competitors getting an advantage.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Companies need to protect their innovations, but how do we balance that with this need for transparency?
That's the question, isn't it? One approach is to develop XAI methods that offer explanations at a high level without disclosing the specific algorithms or code. That way, you understand the reasoning without giving away all the company's secrets.
So it's like giving a meaningful explanation without revealing the secret recipe.
Exactly. And there's a lot of research happening in this area right now, looking at things like model distillation. That's where you train a smaller, simpler model to mimic the behavior of a complex AI. Then that simpler model can be used to give explanations.
Interesting. So like creating a simplified user manual for a complex machine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a key goal of XAI,
Mm.
bridging that gap between how complex AI systems are and our need as humans to understand. It's about making AI more accessible, more accountable, and ultimately more beneficial for everyone.
Well put. And I think this brings us to a crucial question. Why should the average person, someone who maybe isn't a data scientist or an AI expert, care about XAI? What's the takeaway for them?
Excellent question. And the answer is really quite simple. XAI empowers all of us. It gives us the tools to understand and question those AI systems that are increasingly shaping our lives. From healthcare decisions to loan approvals, even job recommendations.
Hmm.
AI is playing a bigger role every day. XAI allows us to move from blindly trusting AI to actually understanding what's going on.
So it's about taking control, not just passively accepting AI's decisions, but actively engaging with them.
Exactly. XAI gives us a voice in this AI revolution. It lets us ask why to demand those explanations. And that's critical to ensure AI is being used fairly and ethically in a way that benefits all of us.
Well said. Okay, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive into XAI, there's another important aspect I want to highlight: regulations. We've talked about how XAI can expose bias and promote fairness, but are there any legal frameworks or guidelines out there that actually make sure XAI is being used effectively, ethically?
Great question, and it's a hot topic right now. The European Union, for example, has been leading the way with something called the AI Act. It aims to classify AI systems based on the level of risk they pose, with stricter rules for those high-risk applications.
So a tiered system where the AI systems with the potential to impact people's lives the most, those face greater scrutiny.
Precisely. And this AI Act, it really emphasizes transparency and explainability, especially for those high-risk applications. It's a step toward ensuring responsible AI development.
That's good to hear. It sounds like there's growing recognition that we need ethical guidelines for AI. But regulations alone can't solve every challenge, right?
Definitely not. They provide a framework, but companies and developers need to truly embrace those ethical principles when they design and build these AI systems. It's got to be about going beyond just following the rules to actively striving for fairness, transparency, and accountability.
I agree. So it sounds like we need a multi-pronged approach: solid regulations, ethical design principles, and widespread understanding of just how important XAI is.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's about creating a culture of responsibility around AI, where transparency and fairness are not just afterthoughts, but core values.
Excellent points. Now, as we wrap up this first part of our deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a question to ponder. Knowing that XAI exists, how should we as individuals interact with AI differently? Should we demand more transparency from the companies using it? And what can we do to make sure AI is being used ethically for the good of everyone?
Those are fantastic questions, and ones that we'll dig into even deeper in the next part of our deep dive. Remember to like this deep dive, subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, and Amazon, and think about participating in our crowdfunding campaign. You'll find the link in the comments.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of explainable AI. Last time, we explored the core concepts of XAI and how it can help make sure AI is used ethically, responsibly.
And we talked about some real-world examples where XAI is already helping uncover problems in AI systems.
Right, from criminal risk assessment to facial recognition to those job ads, it seems like XAI is showing us that AI might not be as fair, as objective as we thought.
And that's a crucial point. It's about moving past just blindly trusting these AI systems and demanding transparency, accountability.
So how do we do that? Knowing that XAI exists, how should we as individuals approach these AI systems differently?
Well, I think it starts with a healthy dose of skepticism. We can't just assume that everything AI spits out is accurate or unbiased. Remember, these systems are made by people,
Right.
and they can reflect our own limitations, our own
So
biases.
questioning AI's decisions, asking for explanations, not just taking its answers at face value.
Exactly, and that's where things like the EU's AI Act come in. They're starting to establish a right to an explanation, especially for those high-risk AI applications.
That's a good step. But it sounds like individual action is just one part of the puzzle. What can we do collectively to promote ethical AI development?
Public awareness, advocacy, those are key. We need to keep this conversation about ethical AI going, push for more transparency from companies, institutions that are using AI, and support those organizations that are really championing responsible AI.
So demanding more information about how AI is being used, the data it's trained on, how decisions are made, holding those in power accountable.
Exactly. The future of AI isn't just happening to us. We're shaping it through our choices, our demands, our actions.
Okay, I want to switch gears a bit and dig a little deeper into the technical side of XAI. We've talked about how it can uncover problems, but how is it actually used to find and fix bias in a practical way?
One powerful technique is called feature attribution. It basically helps us pinpoint which specific input features are driving the AI's decision.
So, like, if we think about that loan application, feature attribution would show us which factors, credit score, income, employment history, are having the biggest impact on whether the AI approves or denies the loan.
Exactly. And by analyzing these attributions, we can spot potential red flags. Say the algorithm is giving way too much weight to something like zip code, which could be a stand-in for socioeconomic status.
Right.
That's a problem that needs to be addressed.
It's about looking for patterns that could suggest unfair or discriminatory practices. So once you've identified these potential biases, how do you actually fix them?
Developers can tweak the algorithm or even adjust the data it's trained on to reduce the impact of those biases. There are also techniques like those counterfactual explanations we talked about earlier.
Right.
They tell us what would need to change for the AI to make a different decision.
So with the loan application, the counterfactual explanation might say, hey, if your income were a little higher, you would have been approved.
Precisely. They can be super helpful for understanding the AI's logic and finding areas for improvement. For example, if it turns out the algorithm relies heavily on factors that could be discriminatory, that's vital information for developers.
It's like you're shining a light on the AI's thought process, making it justify its decision.
Exactly. And that accountability is key to building trust. When we understand how those decisions are made and can spot potential biases, we're more likely to trust the outcomes.
Makes sense. But even with XAI, isn't there still a chance that some biases could slip through? These AI systems are incredibly complex.
That's true. No system is perfect. And XAI isn't a magic bullet. It's an ongoing process,
Right.
and it requires constant vigilance and a commitment to improvement.
So we need to constantly evaluate AI systems, looking for biases and refining them.
Exactly. And human oversight is crucial throughout that whole process. XAI can give us amazing tools, but it's up to us to use those tools responsibly, ethically.
Speaking of human oversight, we've been talking a lot about developers and regulators, their roles in ethical AI. But what about the everyday user? What can they do?
I think it comes down to being informed consumers of AI. We need to understand that these biases can exist and demand transparency from companies that are using these systems.
So doing our research, asking questions, holding those in power accountable for responsible AI.
Precisely. And we can choose to support the companies, the organizations that are prioritizing ethical AI development and transparency.
So it sounds like we all have a role to play. The developers, the regulators, and us, the people using these systems every day, we all share the responsibility of making sure AI is used ethically for everyone's benefit.
Absolutely. The future of AI depends on collaboration, with everyone working together to make sure this powerful technology is used for good.
Now, let's look ahead a bit. Where do you see XAI going in the next few years? What exciting developments are on the horizon?
One really exciting trend is this focus on developing XAI that's more user-friendly, accessible to everyone. Imagine tools that allow anyone, no matter their technical background, to understand how AI is making decisions.
That would be amazing. It would allow everyone to participate in this conversation about ethical AI. What else are you excited about?
There's also a big push for more standardized ways to measure XAI techniques. This is crucial for ensuring that the explanations are meaningful and reliable, not just subjective interpretations.
So, a common language for evaluating XAI, making sure everyone's on the same page when it comes to transparency, explainability.
Exactly. And there's some really cool work happening in interactive XAI where users can actually engage with those explanations, ask follow-up questions, explore different scenarios.
So instead of just passively receiving explanations, you can have a conversation with the AI system, probing its logic, gaining a deeper understanding. It's like taking XAI to the next level.
Precisely. It's about giving users the power to understand AI on their own terms and build a deeper level of trust in these systems.
It's incredible how much emphasis there is on empowerment in the field of XAI. It's about empowering us as individuals, as communities, as a society, to shape the future of AI in a way that aligns with our values.
Couldn't have said it better myself. XAI is a tool for democratizing AI, making it more accessible, accountable, and ultimately more beneficial for all of us.
As we wrap up this part of our discussion, I want to shift gears to concrete action. Knowing what we know about XAI now, what are some steps that each of us can take to advocate for a more ethical and responsible AI? We'll continue our discussion on that and wrap up in part 3. Welcome back to the deep dive. In the first 2 parts, we really dug into the power of explainable AI. XAI, it's all about making sure those AI decisions are transparent, accountable.
We talked about how XAI can help find problems and even tackle bias in these AI systems.
And we ended on a big question. How can we, as individuals, push for more ethical and responsible AI?
That's where we come in as consumers, citizens, even as colleagues. I think we can make a difference by being more careful, more thoughtful about how we interact with products and services that use AI.
Being aware of the AI working in the background,
Yeah.
in our social media, in healthcare, and really asking the right questions.
Exactly. When you come across an AI system, don't hesitate to ask, how does this thing actually work? What data was used to train it? Has it been checked for bias?
It's about demanding transparency from companies, holding them to a higher standard.
And we've got power as consumers, too. We can support the companies that are really prioritizing ethical AI, those transparent practices.
Putting our money where our mouth is, right? But beyond our individual choices, how can we push for ethical AI on a larger scale?
By being informed citizens participating in the public discussion about AI, we can advocate for policies that promote ethical AI and support those groups that are fighting for responsible AI.
So, contacting our representatives, getting involved with those advocacy groups, raising awareness among our friends and family.
Exactly. It's about making sure those ethical considerations are front and center in the decisions that get made and in people's minds.
And for those of us working in companies that use AI, what can we do in our own workplaces?
Don't be shy about asking questions about the AI systems they're using. Are they taking steps to prevent bias? Do they have clear guidelines for ethical development and use?
So, promoting a culture of responsibility around AI, starting from within.
Exactly. And remember, there are some amazing resources out there to guide us through all of this. Groups like the AI Now Institute, the Partnership on AI, they offer valuable insights and guidance on ethical AI, XAI, all of it.
Great. We'll link those in the show notes. As we wrap up our deep dive into XAI, I'm really struck by how empowering this whole concept is,
It's about changing our relationship with AI, moving away from blind trust to understanding.
and realizing that we have the power, individually and together, to shape the future of AI, to make it something that benefits humanity.
I couldn't agree more. The future of AI isn't set in stone. It's something we're creating through our choices, our actions.
It's been a fascinating journey exploring the world of explainable AI with you. We hope our listeners feel empowered to demand that transparency, ask those critical questions, and really champion the ethical and responsible use of this incredibly powerful technology.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into XAI. Keep the conversation going. Advocate for responsible AI. And together, let's shape a future where this technology helps everyone fairly and for good.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those questions, and keep pushing for an AI-powered world that works for all of us.